Hi everyone. Today I'm going to speak to you about the creativity of kindness. And in order to do that, I'm going to bring you back to a little bit of time ago, maybe a long time ago, when I was a bit younger. And I left school at quite a young age because I wasn't happy there. I didn't get on quite well. And I pursued loads of different things. One of which was I decided to become a plumber. Now, that was a really bad decision for me personally, but it was an even worse decision for the poor people whose homes I flooded. What I learned pretty quickly was that it wasn't what I was meant to do. So I was searching for something a bit more, like Maxim said, the why. And then in 2013, I read about the concept of suspended coffees. It was an idea that originated in the working class cafes of Naples, Italy, where you would buy 2 cups of coffee, one for yourself and one to be left behind for a stranger as an act of kindness or a way to pay it forward. I knew straight away that it was something that I had to do. It was something that I had to promote. It was the first time in my life where I really felt such a strong link to my why. So I set about spreading the word and raising awareness about the entire concept. From that, in the first 6 months, over 2,000 cafes in 34 different countries all over the world took part and actively participated in the movement. Over 500,000 people came together on our Facebook group to talk and share stories about how these small, meaningful acts of kindness, as simple as buying a cup of coffee for a stranger, could have a huge impact on a person's life. The really funny thing was that I actually knew nothing about what I was doing. I had never even tasted a cup of coffee in my life at that time. Never. I often say to people that I didn't choose the mug life chose me. Then I got an email from a gentleman by the name of Chris Anderson, who's the head of TED. Chris was writing a book titled Infectious Generosity, which was all about how kindness and generosity spread in today's digital connected age at speeds like never before. And Chris asked me if he could share my story and the story of suspended coffees in his book. From that, I met another incredible human being who's here. The lights are bright, so I think he's over that direction. Tom Cledwin, who actually helped Chris write the book at the time. And when the book was published, myself and Tom decided to pay Chris a visit. So we went to Chris and we asked him, we wanted to know how he felt, what he thought. And Chris actually told Tom and I to just go away. Yeah. Go away. And come back with an idea that would prove out that generosity could spread like never before. So we fund 1,000 people with $500 around ideas that are centered with kindness and generosity. We basically research everything that happens, we share the story with anyone who listens, and we provide weekly dispatches to basically communicate all of that. Currently, we've funded over 425 different human beings with different intentions, ideas, beliefs, experiences, backgrounds, cultures, in over 24 different countries all over the world. And we've learned that there's 4 beautifully human behaviors that make generosity spread. Curiosity, creativity, courage, and collaboration. But as today is about creativity, I'm going to speak to you a little bit about that one. So, we have creativity. And I think for me, and actually it would be interesting to know if anybody else felt like this, I always thought that creativity was linked to the arts, to music, to writing, design, all of these things. Did anybody else ever think that that was creativity? Okay, great. We have 4 more people. I don't feel so alone. Oh, 5. Thanks, Maxim. And I think what I've learned is actually creativity isn't just that. It's actually much more simple than that. Creativity is looking at something and thinking, is there something I could do? Is there something a little bit different in how I approach solving a problem? What could happen if I did that? So creativity isn't just artistry. It isn't about painting, creating music, making films. It is about those things, but not just about those things. Creativity isn't conventional. Sometimes it's actually thinking outside the box, thinking in a way that you wouldn't normally think at all. What's the most unusual thing you could dream up? What's the most maddest thing that you could, believe could happen? And creativity actually isn't perfect. Sometimes when we strive for that perfection, it actually limits the process of how creative we can be. So leaning more into that imperfection, you can actually have an even bigger impact with the creative process of what it is that you do. Now, we basically lean into the storytelling of what people do. We listen to their stories, we get in thousands of hours of calls, we place as much trust as we can in every single human being, and we get to know them and we celebrate them and support them in as much a way as we can. And when we do that, what happens is what we call drop-dead creative. And I'm going to share a little story with you about one of our grantees who was extremely drop-dead creative, Bailey. So Bailey is a 22-year-old personal trainer from Grimsby in the UK. Now Bailey works in elderly care homes, and he's a little bit afraid of boring. So Bailey used his creativity to come up with an idea that started with potentially hosting a tea party and then morphed into bringing a Shetland pony into an elderly care home. So I was actually there on that day and I got to witness and experience it with Aidan. Aidan is here as well. So both Aidan and I were actually there, and it was absolutely incredible. There was elderly people who had not left their rooms in over 3 months, came out of their rooms to see that Shetland pony and the Irish guy with an unusual accent. There was people who shared stories about their childhood, who actually experienced happiness for the first time in years, is what they told me. And Kath, the lady who owned the equine therapy business, used the Shetland pony as a way to really connect and communicate with these elderly people who more often than not actually felt alone and felt like they'd no purpose left in life. And witnessing them experience this joy was just magical. You might think, okay, cool idea. But what happened from that is the story of the Shetland pony going to the care home ended up in local and national media. Kath, the lady who runs the equine business, raised over £17,000 to visit another 40 care homes across the country for free. And it didn't end there. Joe, the 31-inch Shetland pony, won a BBC Personality Award. No, I'm not lying. And Kath, the lady who ran the Equine Therapy Centre, got invited by the King himself to come to Buckingham Palace for a garden party to acknowledge the work that she was doing and the impact that had on her community. Like, how incredible is that? I really did not think for a second that day and whole experience could not go any better than when I was there on that day with Aidan. So, I mean, amazing story. You have to embrace the silliness, but sometimes these things don't always go to plan. And what I learned, actually, is that Shetland ponies do not like Irish people.
Yeah, but was that on camera?
So, don't think that this is a perfect story or a perfect project. Sometimes you have to embrace the chaos. Kindness is what we do. Creativity is how we think. When you bring those two things together, extraordinary things can happen. So I just encourage you, as you go about your lives in the next few days, just notice the small things and the big things. And if there's an opportunity for you to do something, do it. It doesn't have to be huge, it can be small, or it can be anything you want. Do it and see how it feels.